The rain had stopped hours ago, but the mud still clung to her boots like guilt she couldn't wash away. Captain Elena Ward stood at the edge of the base gate, her uniform stripped of insignia, her duffel hanging loosely over her shoulder. The guards had said nothing, just opened the gate and let her walk. After everything she'd done, after saving one of their own, this was how they said goodbye. She turned once, hoping for a glance of recognition. None came. Before I tell you what happened next, tell me in the comments where you were watching from. I love knowing who's listening. She walked into the fog, the world suddenly too quiet for a woman who had spent years in chaos. Just 24 hours ago, she'd been hailed as a hero. A mission deep in enemy territory, a downed SEAL pinned under fire, and a call no one else dared answer. She had gone anyway, against orders, against logic, and because of that, she'd saved him, Lieutenant Mason Hale. But saving him had cost her everything. Inside the base, rules were sacred. Disobedience, even for the right reason, was rebellion. And rebellion, they said, couldn't be tolerated, so they let her go. No ceremony, no salute, just silence. She thought she'd never see him again. She was wrong. That night, Elena sat alone in her small apartment on the outskirts of town. The walls were bare, the lights dim. She'd tried to sleep, but every time she closed her eyes, she saw Mason's blood on her hands. The medevac helicopter, the shouting, the explosion that almost took them both. She'd carried him through fire and fear, praying to a God she hadn't spoken to in years. Now she was left with only the echo of that prayer. Outside, thunder rolled again, distant but deliberate. A storm gathering its courage. She got up, restless, and moved toward the window. Streetlights flickered in the rain. A cat darted across the alley, and then 3 soft knocks on the door. Her heart stumbled. No one knew she lived here. No one should have known. She hesitated, then opened it. There he was, Lieutenant Mason Hale, standing in the doorway, rain dripping from his hair, his arm still bound in a sling. His eyes, those same calm, steel-gray eyes, met hers with a quiet gratitude that words could never hold. "Elena," he said softly, "they told me you were gone." "I am," she whispered, "at least to them." He smiled faintly, a fragile thing that carried more weight than any salute. "Then they made a mistake." He stepped inside before she could protest. For a moment, the world seemed to pause. The hum of the fridge, the ticking clock, everything fell silent. She felt the heat of his presence, the unspoken storm between them. "I heard what happened," Mason said, voice rough. "They said you disobeyed a direct order, that you went rogue, but they don't know. You didn't save me, you saved us all." Elena turned away, her throat tightening. "Doesn't matter. I broke protocol. They were right to let me go." "Right?" Mason stepped closer. "They would have left me there to die, Elena. You didn't break protocol. You remembered what it was supposed to mean." Her hands trembled. She didn't want to cry, not after everything. But the truth in his words cracked something open inside her. "I didn't do it for medals," she said quietly. "I did it because it was the right thing." Mason nodded. "And that's why they'll never forget you." Outside, the rain turned heavy again, thrumming against the glass like distant applause. Mason reached into his jacket and pulled out a small envelope, creased, weathered, official. "They're reinstating you," he said. "Command finally reviewed the footage. They saw what really happened. The call you made saved 6 lives." Elena froze. "Reinstating? Me?" He smiled. "And they're offering you something else, a leadership post in the new rescue division. They want someone who doesn't follow the rulebook, someone who writes it." She didn't speak for a long moment. The air between them was electric, charged with everything unsaid. Finally, she whispered, "Why bring it yourself?" Mason's gaze softened. "Because I owed you a knock on your door. Because you didn't just save my life. You reminded me what it's worth. In that moment, the walls around her heart began to crumble. The loneliness, the shame, the quiet ache of being forgotten, all of it melted away under the weight of his words. She looked at the envelope again, her reflection glimmering faintly in the wet paper. "I didn't think anyone would remember." "They always remember the ones who walk through fire for them," Mason said. Elena took a deep breath, then opened the door again. The rain spilled in, cool and relentless. She stepped out beneath it, feeling it soak through her clothes, her hair, her skin. It was like being baptized in a second chance. Behind her, Mason watched silently, his eyes filled with something rare. Peace. Because kindness doesn't vanish. It waits, and it finds its way back. And that night, as the storm washed the world clean, Elena Ward finally believed that some knocks aren't meant to break walls, they meant to open them. If this story moved you, share it with someone who still believes in doing what is right, even when it costs everything. And don't forget to subscribe to Whispered Words for more stories of courage, redemption, and the moments that change everything.